I don't know whether you saw the interview that she did when she did. Did you see her on the BBC, the programme? What was your impression of her from that? Because I watched that as well, and I thought she was deeply untrustworthy.
My view on this is it's immaterial. She's a British national. I think she should face a British court and British justice. Whether people think that she hasn't done anything wrong, or she was trafficked or groomed, these are all opinions. The facts are she's a British national, she's a subject of Her Majesty's government, or His Majesty's government, and so she should face the court in this country. That's my view. If a British judge could preside over a court prosecuting Göring and Albert Speer after the Second World War, I think we can handle Shamima Begum.
Of course, the argument is, because of her family lineage, she could have Bangladeshi citizenship. The Bangladeshis have said, yeah, we'll have her, but we'll try her and we'll execute her. That's why we're in this holding pattern, isn't it?
I'm not familiar with the Bangladeshi dual nationality thing. As I understand it, she is stateless presently. So I don't know about that.
Let me come to you, Kelvin. I imagine you have a rather different opinion.
Well, she has flip-flopped as she has seen which way the wind was going. When she was first discovered in 2015 by the Times, or 2019, I think, actually, by the Times, her view was, actually, I don't regret anything. You know, there was a head in the bucket, and that was it. And by the way, I married a terrorist, and I had 3 children, which I lost, and I went with other terrorists, and this was my life, and actually it was bloody good. Then either her family or the lawyers came to her and said, well, if you're ever going to come back here, you're going to have to go the other way. Then she started saying, oh, I was groomed, it was terrible, it was this, it was that. This was a girl of 15 with enough resource to get out to Turkey, then take the bus and get into Syria. This is not the normal 15-year-old down at your local comp. The truth about the matter is that she has made a big mistake. The issue about today's judgment is there are enough holes in that judgment, to my mind, having now read it all, that not only will the appeals go on, I guarantee you, when Labour come to power in 2024, 25, whenever it is, I guarantee you she's back in this country facing some very small charge, and she'll be out in 3 to 5 years. It is an absolute shocker. And one of the issues is we might end up, this may end up, keep on going on and on and up, we might end up at the European Court of Human Rights. Imagine if we, the country, didn't want her to be here, but some European social do-gooders said, you've got to allow her in. I hesitate to think what the politics on that would be.
It'd be nice to know the detail, wouldn't it, Aaron, as to why she's still considered to be a security risk, because that's why she lost this case today. We can't know that, of course.
Well, I think there's a strange logic here, which is contradictory. On the one hand, we're being told there is insufficient evidence for her to probably go down for a long time. And on the other hand, there's sufficient evidence that she's a security risk.
There is a paradox.
I don't quite get that. So and I'm sure there's plenty of evidence, frankly, that would send her down for a very long time. Otherwise, this argument doesn't make sense.
Well, maybe they think, obviously, a lot of radicalisation happens in prisons. Could that be part of it? They don't want her in prison with the celebrity status of the world's most famous.
We don't want her back at all.
ISIS.
She made her bed, right? And she chose to lie in it with a terrorist and to lie in it with a terrorist group. And by the way, none of this would be happening now were it not the fact that in Syria, the ISIS were roundly defeated. So suddenly, when she was a winner, everything's fine. Now she's defeated. She said, I tell you what, forget about northern Syria. I'm coming back to the UK. And it's at that point that I say, no, you've decided what to do. And honestly, I also think it's a good example to other potential 15, 16, 17, 18-year-olds who fancy going this way. When you make that journey, you are saying goodbye to your country, and
Aaron,
just as well.
What did you make of her current PR campaign? I mean, I'd love to hear your opinion on this as well, Kelvin, as a former editor of a newspaper. The fact that she's had a documentary series funded by the BBC, a podcast series, I Am Not a Monster, funded by the BBC, funded by us, the taxpayer. The fact that she had the front cover of the Times, I think it was the Times, it was the Times, wasn't it? The Times Weekend magazine, the best-selling supplement in the country. What do you make of that?
Well, it's clearly effective. And look, people in the media game do it because it sells. It's an interesting story. So on the one hand, yes, of course, it benefits her, but it benefits the people selling the newspapers or selling adverts on whatever news network there is. Again, like I say, I would want to draw back from that and say, justice is blind. You go to the Old Bailey, you see justice on top of it, and she's wearing a blindfold. And Kelvin's saying many valid things. I don't disagree with any of them. I certainly wouldn't want to live next door to her.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's how you run a legal system. There's a great documentary. If you go on YouTube, your viewers can see this pathé footage from the trials, the trials, the Nuremberg trials after 1945, and they're saying contrast the illegality and criminality of the Nazi regime with British justice. Why can't we do that now?
Kelvin?
First of all, I don't think you can equate 6 million Jews being wiped out with what this girl wanted to do. What she was in essence a terrorist herself. I don't see why we have to expend one single penny on bringing her through the justice system. The people who are benefiting out of this, of course, as always in all these things, are the lawyers. The lawyers, I hesitate to think what this bill... I think the bill for this alone is 5 million, right?
Wow.
It is an enormous amount of money to our expense. But actually, in a funny way, it's a signal. You as a devout Muslim wants to go out there and fight with the terrorists, well, say goodbye to your country, rather than allow them to flip-flop on the way in. And on the question of how she transferred herself. So 1 minute she's in a niqab and there's all the pictures taken of that. The next minute, she looks like a Vogue cover girl.
She does. If that had come across your desk as the editor, though, it would be very hard to say no to it, wouldn't it, to put her on the cover of that magazine?
To put her on the cover of the magazine. Well, actually, I was against that. I felt personally hostile to that. If you had I run a paper like The Sun, right, I would have run the two pictures side by side, right, and stuck that on page one. That would have got people thinking. I know I didn't enjoy that, to be honest with you.
No.
And I felt that she was that we were being manipulated by her lawyers or by somebody. I mean, where is all this money coming from?
I find that fascinating. I do find it really interesting. Who is so invested in her story that they are prepared, apart from what we can see the BBC, that they are prepared to pay for the photo shoots, the camera crews to go out there? Who is doing that? It can only be the BBC.
Well, do you know, I'm told actually it's the journalist. But what happens is when they turn up to take a picture of her or something like that, she always says, Lee, give me a baseball cap, give me this, give me that, give me some money for this and that. And of course, if you're a journo, if that's the price of getting the story, then that's it.
Yeah.
Look, I think she's a very clever woman. A very, very clever woman. And
she can't be that clever. She's in a bit of a pickle, isn't she?
Well, I'm glad she's in a pickle.
But she can't be that clever then, can she?
I thought she was quite thick. I can't lie. When I saw her on the interview, I thought, everyone's been telling me you're an academic overachiever. She sounds sort of half-baked.
No.
To be honest, she did sound quite thick on the interview, didn't you think?
No.
I try not to judge.
No, I don't think so.
You think she was hiding it?
I think she's being clever.
She's
very, very clever. And I actually think she's damn clever to get out there.
There's a reason why I haven't edited a national newspaper for 20 years. You did, Kelvin. I'll believe anything.
You wouldn't want to, let me tell you.